Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show, we're talking about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Alice in Borderland Season 2, Episode 2. Great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're picking up where the last episode left off, and we learn a little bit more about Kyuma and his team. They were originally a band in the other world. And obviously they bring up a very interesting thing, which I thought was so fascinating, is they're saying like, yeah, this is our, Shitara made this game. This is actually the first time we're actually ever playing it. I was like, that's so interesting. Makes sense considering, like, right, the face cards only just appeared. So it brings up a lot of interesting questions because we know everyone got to this world at different points in time. So it's like, right, we only just got unlocked this stage. So it makes you wonder how far in advance were the face card situation set up. Also, I got to correct myself from last episode. I'll probably leave a comment correcting it if I remember to. But obviously, last episode I said 10 face cards. I meant 12. You know, I miscounted. But I'm so curious, like, how far in advance they made these games. So it's like, right, now the games are rolling out, we get to do this. And this is the first time they're playing it, so no one else has come in this area. Because to be fair, all the beach survivors, who knows about anyone else here, but all the beach people, like, met up with Arisu and them, so it's like, that's where a majority of the people culminated, was their kind of the starting area for the next stage of the game, so it kind of makes sense. So no one's probably tackled the other 10 yet. To our knowledge, at the very least. We don't know. Either way, I mean, because there might be some, like, stragglers out and about that are not connected to the beach, who might have, like, been out and about in the city on their own, or I'd assume most of the people they would come across might be people from the beach. I mean, a lot of them died last episode. But either way, I'm going on a whole bunch of tangents. But this is kind of an interesting game. Once again, just very interesting, like, that at the heart of it, there is kind of almost this tag element to it. And yeah, everyone's got 10,000 points. You divide them up however you want to. At bare minimum, someone needs, wasn't it like 100 points is the bare minimum someone is allowed to, like, start off with. So, and obviously Arisu asked Kyuma about, like, right, if we collect all the cards, if we beat all the games, if we clear everything, if we clear, like, the remaining, like, 12 cards, like, will we get to go home to the real world? And he's like, what is the real world? He's like, basically, like, that world is a world of deceptions and stuff like that. This is the world where we all get to bear naked who we really are. Like, the fact that, I mean, and that is that thing of, like, there's that conversation, and, you know, obviously it's in a hyperbolized manner considering it's this, but also I think there's some truth to it that, like, we humans, when we are near death's door, that's when a true person's character could come out. Like, you know, like, that fight or flight inside of people can come out, and it's like, right, once again, how desperate are you to survive? What are you willing to do to survive? How hard are you going to fight? So that type of stuff, like who you are, who your true character is, comes out in these games, and that's why Kyuma's like, that's why this is more of kind of a real world, because that's fake. Like, we live our lives with once again, these social norms. In his case, it's like, right, being naked is the truest form of, like, you know, living, not like being clothed. That's super unnatural. And so for him, it's like this world of games shows us who we really are at the end of the day. So obviously, Arisu comes up with a plan, dividing up the points. Basically, I forgot what it was, like, the slow runners get I forgot. One, he puts the slow runners with the fast runners, and one gets more points than the other. But the fact is, you can team up together, and battle out your opponents. I really like the structure of this game. It's a really interesting game, but when the time comes, they seem like they are on the winning side. They find some items and stuff like that, which is interesting to know. Like, yeah, there's only 6 items in the entire battle arena, and it's a massive battle arena. So it seems like, hey, we're kind of winning, especially later on when it turns out Arisu faces off against Kyuma, and they find out that everyone on the team has the evenly divided points. They split the 10,000 with each member getting 2,000 because it's like, right, that's what we do. We live or we die together. They've been a band, they've been a team for so long, and that's what we do. That's how they've always kind of did things. They made decisions together. Like, no one's life is more important than the others. We either live together or we die together. So this is kind of, that's their kind of stance. And it's almost like, wow. And they actually go like, wow, this Kyuma guy's actually, because they're so used to like scumbaggy people. That is, I mean, especially, let's not forget your last encounter was with like Aguni, and just like how that all went down, his self-hatred against everyone at the beach because of Hatter going crazy. That now it's like, it's like after those situations and you meet someone like Kyuma, who is so like laid back and not like, he's actually a decent dude. I mean, like, that's the sad thing. Like, it's not like everyone's a piece of crap in these games or something like that. I mean, a lot of people have their own motives. They're doing their own thing, especially last season when it came to a lot of the beach stuff. But still, regardless, I just thought that was so interesting. And they're, like, kind of taking it a little, like, not as seriously because they're like, oh, yeah, like, what was it? Yeah, like, everyone's like, yeah, I underestimated you. Even Kuina, it's like, oh, I actually kind of forget you're a bad guy, Naragi, because it's like, yeah, let's kind of put all that aside as we work together. I even love, like, when they had to, like, touch hands and stuff like that, and she's like, and she's just like, oh, fine. It's like, to be fair, it makes a lot of sense. Like, the last, like, encounter she had with Naragi was not a good one, aside from, like, Naragi, like, killing a whole bunch of people. Like, her personal last encounter with him, aside from when he popped up at the end, burned up, shooting at everybody. Like, aside from that, like, he was trying to take advantage of her. But it's like, yeah, we're in this together, and they try to go out there. But the sad situation is that Kyuma and his team went on the offensive. All but one of them attacked. And sadly, Shitara, the maker of the game, ended up dying in the process. And it's like they took a gamble, but they all ended up touching the opponent's base, and that led to them getting like 20,000 points. They ended up coming up behind, but Shitara ended up dying because Tata ended up touching him, and he ended up dying. And they just left after the fact because I don't know if touching the gamer's base makes you inactive, but I guess it's like, right, they're honorable people, and they're just like, right, we're going to take our friend back, and, because he's like, right, it's been a hell of a ride, guys, you guys better win and make my death count, And so they end up taking him back, and obviously Naragi kind of puts it all on Tata. It's like, right, but it's like, right, he wasn't in a possible situation. It's like, oh, you should have went for Kyuma. It's like, I guess it makes sense. In Naragi's eyes, it's like, take out the leader of the pack. If you had aimed for Kyuma, then maybe they'd be lost without their leader, But, Arisu's like, yeah, no, it's not on him. It's like, we all underestimate Kyuma. We thought, like, just because of his laid-back, laissez-faire attitude, that we underestimated the team. Like, they came up with a sound strategy. They sacrificed one of their own in that process because they knew, like, hey, one of us is going to die in this situation. So let's go out there, choose not to fight. But given the circumstances, they had much choice. I love Kuina goes up against one of them, and she's like, wow, like, all right, you might win, but I'm going to make sure you get laid out on your ass. But then it's like, wait, why didn't you tell me you could fight? Then there's the other guy, what's his name, like Maki, who ends up going up against Usagi, and like he's the mover of his team too. Usagi's probably like the most God, what's the word I'm looking for? I was about to say versatile, but like, obviously, like, she's the runner, she's a climber, so like she's the agility, she's the sprinter, she's the agility person, she's got the movement on the team. But it did not end up well for all of them. But once again, there's that whole they got the second to last item at that point in time. The Kyuma's team. And he ends up talking to Arusu. Once again, it's like, right, you got to remember, like, what are you willing to what are you willing to do to kind of live in, got to remember, this is a death match, you got to put your all into this. Because Kyuma wanted to fight Arusu because he's like, yeah, I see determination in your eyes. And the whole thing, too, it's like, he'd even talked to Arisu earlier about like, right, is there kind of, I was overhearing like, so are there issues between you and the, because Usagi was paired up with Naragi. I wonder, did Usagi never tell Arisu, because he was blindfolded at the time. But I think Naragi said he was going to do what he did. So, but because we don't know if Usagi ever talked about that with Arisu, because he was tied up and blindfolded at that time and everything. So, like, you know, but I think if I remember correctly, Naragi like boasted about what he was going to do. So I don't know if Usagi's talked about that experience at all with him. So. But the whole conversation is like, because Kuina was like, right, why didn't you bring Usagi with you? Like, is there something going on? Like, obviously we need to be working as a team, and if something's going on, you got to let us know. And so he's like, no, it's fine. Like, I put those two together for a reason, because I guess he was like, I think it's still applicable of, right, because they're in such an awkward space right now, because even more so when Kyumon was like, oh yeah, why don't you two hold hands? And it's like, because obviously to demonstrate, like, right, you put your points together to battle someone. But they were kind of awkward about it. And he's like, oh, you two make a good couple. But it's like, yeah, like, this game is also about, he was talking about basically understanding someone, giving them time to kind of come around so that you can finally, it was about basically seeing things from their point of view and giving them time to come around this, you know, to truly understand one another, because they have that. They have a true understanding of each other, like Kuma and his team. I mean, they've been banned, and he even talked about, like, right, we did what, you know, they were kind of basically the starving artists. They did whatever they could to play live shows, you know, and obviously it's like one of their band members, one of their best friends is dead now, but, you know, and that's just the very nature of this game, and so it's like, right, you got to give it your all because our lives are on the line, because once again, this is a death match. And so this time around, it's like, right, they're up ahead, and it's like, what are we going to do? And once again, Tatsu's getting all the blame for, right, you didn't do much. And he's still, in Naragi's eyes, it's like, oh, you're still being useless. Plus, Naragi has a lot, you know, for him, it's like, I've got nothing to live for because I'm dying right now. I didn't get away from that the beach situation completely unscathed. Like, I don't know if it's like smoke inhalation plus all the burns. Like, he's coughing up blood, so there could be, like, organ damage. I don't know what, like, the necessary cause for that could be. Like I said, it could be just inhaling all that smoke. Could finally be doing him in. But Arisu comes up with a plan, and the moment he's about to activate his bracelet again, he looks at it, and in that, I was like, okay, they set up that rule, but we hadn't really utilized it yet. I thought the situation was going to go down a little differently than what it did. I thought Arisu's plan was going to be this. When he, you know, ultimately what they ended up doing, he was like ready for it, and he basically had Usagi take one of the opponents away. It was like, I think, once again, I think it was the Maki guy, and then the other three stand behind, and they're like touching their base, so they got the infinite points. Kuina, Naragi, and Arisu go running toward. I thought, like, Arisu's initial plan was going to be, he's going to try and, they never brought it up as a rule of thumb, and it's going to be interesting to see if this comes up next episode or not, but they're supposed to, like, you can touch one opponent. There's not a rule about battling, like, what that means, like, for example, if multiple players were touching, and Arisu, who's inactive, touched one, and would his inactivity shock not one but both of them? I mean, could he technically, like, run up and, like, touch three people at the same time? That's what I was kind of wondering. I thought that's what he was going to end up doing. And I wonder, would the shock be worse for him because he touched three people? At the very least, because it's between two people, maybe the shock kind of divides evenly so they both get the same amount of shock. Or maybe even if he touched all three, it'd still be the even amount. Everyone would still get the same amount of shock they would, even if it was one-on-one. That's where I thought it was going to go, but the point was, like, Kuina and Naragi to distract the others, grab some points. Kyuma was knocked out, so Naragi was made inactive. He shocked another one. It was up to Kuina, but she didn't make it in time. So, but now it's like, cool. They were like, wow, that was actually a really good plan, Arisu, but now we're still ahead. And the problem is, the final item's only 2,500 points. It still won't be enough to close the gap. And we're aware of you now, so that plan won't work again. All we have to do is wait the time out. We have to just, like, run the clock, and we'll win as long as we don't battle you, which we have no intentions of battling you now. So, and obviously, once again, Tata gets all the blame because he decided, like, he was too scared to take that leap. Because for Arisu, the whole point was like, right, let's put our fear aside, like, tell Fear to fuck off. Kuyuma and them aren't afraid to die, and that's what's holding us back. Which Naragi was like, yeah, I'm fine with it. Because he's like, I told my fear to fuck off a long time ago. And Arisu is like, right, he's like, I'm willing to give my life so that each and every one of you are able to survive. And Usagi and Kuina were down, but Tata was resistant. And, Arisu told him, no, you just stay back and guard the base. But it's like, right, if he was there, he could have changed the odds because, yeah, there's only 4. And so it was a 3v3, but if Tato had been there, been their secret weapon, he could have came through in the end. They would have won the game, but it's because you were too afraid to go, take that leap. And obviously he's beating himself up the most. Because we still, Tata's the person on this team right now. We know nothing about his past. Obviously we followed Arisu. Excuse me. We learned about Usagi's situation last season, and obviously we're still trickling. That's still going to trickle through this season. Kuina and Naragi, we learned about their situations last season as well. So, but Arisu is taking the blame himself. Everyone on the team kind of is. It's right. Kuina's right. If I hadn't failed, this would but it's right. And Arisu's hey, if I come up with a better plan, my plan wasn't good enough. Luckily, Usagi does find the item, and it does close the gap enough. It's 500 points, but it's yeah, they're not going to battle us again, so we got to do something. Naragi goes off on his own because he's man, I was so stupid. I believed in this whole cooperation and stuff thing. I guess for him, it's he kind of for a second let go of the whole right, I got to look out for me type of thing, because he's used to being in a more powerful position and everyone with the militia back at the beach and stuff like that. But it's all right, I kind of bought into this hurrah team kumbaya bullshit. It's kind of how he's kind of putting it, And so later on, he goes after Usagi because he's right, I'm not like you guys holding on to your hopes and dreams. The fact is, he's no, I realize who and what I really am. I'm scum, and why am I pretending to be anything else? He ends up saying, I don't know if people hated me because I was twisted or I became twisted because people hated me. We've only got that snapshot of him, but I guess the argument could be right, I think it becomes that interesting conversation of nature versus nurture and how much is innate inside of us. Our environment plays a role of in Naragi's case, maybe he was always like this on the inside. I think it's kind of what he's implying. Maybe I was always like this and people saw it in me and they hated me for it. Or am I just a byproduct of my environment that maybe into the twisted person that I am? And I think that's kind of an interesting thing. I don't think it's ever solely one thing. I do believe humans, we are complex. We are a combination of nature and nurture. I think we all have the capacity to be that darker side of ourselves, whatever it may be. But our environment shapes us on whether or not we give into that or not. And Naragi is just fuck it, I'm going to give into my darker side, And he's hey, let's pick. I was oh, he's let's pick up where we left off. So I was almost hoping Kuina would show up at the last second and deal with something. It's it's right. It's I kind of almost gave you the benefit of the doubt, being I almost forgot you're a bad guy. But once again, I almost forgot you were a bad guy, but you are a bad guy. So hopefully she can help. Arisu's making one last gamble because maybe there could be something we can do. The fact is that it's not over until it's over. So maybe one last gamble could happen. Maybe a miracle could happen. There's a 500 point difference. And he turns to Tata and he's right, I didn't ever tell you this, but thank you. You've always been optimistic and you've always cheered me up. Because despite what Naragi said, it's not Tata's been through it as well, because obviously he survived the tag game because of Arisu, and he kind of paid Arisu back by being part of the squad that ended up saving him. Hell, once again, he had a gun point in his face, dodged it, and took someone down. So he can be brave in those moments, and I'm almost scared. Well, he said because Naragi should be the one willing to sacrifice himself, considering he's but no one knows his condition. No one knows it. That's the first time he's ever talked about the fact is he's almost out of time is with Usagi. So, but he's not. He's back to being his selfish self. It's fuck this cooperation. I'm gonna get what I want in the end. I'm gonna be scum to the end. I'm gonna be who I am at the very end. Kind of plays in, like I said, in what Kiyoma said. Our true characters come out in these type of games. In these type of situations. So, And you could tell, I think Tata is going to make a gamble, a play, and hopefully he doesn't end up sacrificing himself, but I was kind of scared that he would, just because he's beating himself up so much, and he's scared. He's like, Artu's trying, everyone try, and I'm the one that sat here, so I think he's going to beat himself up into doing something, and maybe he'll be willing to sacrifice himself because he sees Artu's determination, and then it's like, I don't know. We'll see how this all plays out. I was actually kind of surprised because like most of the games have been one episode situations, except for the witch situation in a beach. That's the only one that last season was multiple episodes. I'm sure, like, if you look at, I'm sure manga-wise, these are multiple chapters. I highly doubt these are all done in, like, a single chapter, like any of the games, but it's like, yeah, when you look back on, like, season 1, like, every game was a one-episode thing. Whether it's the Live or Die Doors, the tag game, the goal game with the bus, even the heart game that Chota, Shibuki, and Karube ended up dying in. So that was just interesting to like kind of have. And so this will probably get resolved in like the first probably chunk of the next episode. So it's probably going to be like, this game is probably going to last like maybe like 1 2/5 of an episode maybe. But it's going to definitely be interesting to see how the conclusion to this happens. Like how this lasts, once again, I've talked about this in my nerd mode. Like these games can come down to the wire and you never know, how it's all going to play out in the end. So like I said, we don't even, like it could be, Tata who ends up dying at the end. Maybe it's Naragi. How Arsu will pull this through, or will someone else end up pulling it through? We'll ultimately have to wait and see. I'm very excited to see where the next episode takes us with the conclusion of this game, and also what else is going to end up happening in that episode. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.